it's Butler Bulldog Bill here once again, and it's Friday, TGIF, right? But today, if you live here in Columbus, Indiana like I do, it's a very big day. It's been a very big week. Today is week 2 of the high school football season here in the state of Indiana, and today is the big rivalry game here in Columbus. We have the Columbus North Bulldogs against the Columbus East Olympians. Now, I was a Columbus East alum. I went there from the fall of 2003 to the spring of 2007. But our schools are 3.5 miles apart. Columbus East Olympians, I ran track at the school. Almost did soccer and football, but ended up breaking my hip right before my freshman year. Long story, we won't need to get into that. But East is orange, brown, and white. Columbus North is royal blue, black, and white. East is a 4A school. Columbus North is a 5A school. 5A is the highest we have here in Indiana. East has approximately 1,600 students, while North has approximately 2,000 students. As far as state championships and football are concerned, North has 0. Columbus East has 1. We won ours back in 1979 when we were a 3A school. Our quarterback, you might know, his name was Blair Keel. He played at Notre Dame for 4 years as the quarterback there, and he went on to the NFL and played for the Colts, the Packers, and I think somebody else too. Short NFL career, but nonetheless, he was our quarterback when we won state back in '79. The series history between these two schools in football: North leads the series 21-19. They did win. They actually won 22 games, but that game was forfeited and given to East because North used an ineligible player, so it's 21-19. For 2 years, back in 09 to 010, Columbus East was a 5A school as well. We do our, classes are based on school size, population size, and we reclassify after every 2 years. So East actually in 09 had just barely enough students to be a 5A school, but after the 2010 season, we were actually lower than the line to get in 5A. We were one of the more populated 4A schools, so we got pushed back down to 4A. But we've had one meeting in the state tournament ever, and that was in 2009, our first year in 5A. We ended up having to play Columbus North in the first round of the state tournament. The state tournament is 6 rounds, approximately 64 teams for every class. But we played in that tournament. We played North earlier in the year. We had a come from behind victory in that game, and then on this day, probably the biggest game in the history of the series, we came from behind again to win it. We were down by 6 with 1:40 to go. North had the ball on our 35-yard line, I believe, and they decided to go for it on 4th down rather than punt it or try a long field goal. They failed on 4th and 5. We came down the field about 65 yards. Took the lead with 20 seconds to go and held on to move on and eliminate them. So that was a huge deal, huge deal. But over the last 2 years, Columbus North has won because it was 19-19 series, but they've won it the last 2 years, like I said, to take a 21-19 lead. Last year's game you might have seen. It was on ESPNU. The reason being is because Columbus East had a quarterback, a senior named Gunnar Keel. He was, by some recruiting sources, they've said that he was the number one QB recruit in the nation, but some would say he was number 2. Regardless, he chose to play for Indiana, spurned them, decided to play for LSU, and then changed his mind one final time, and now he's at Notre Dame. But during that game last year, he had a huge game, one of his best career games in high school football, had over 400 yards, but it was in a losing effort. North won 45-40. But this rivalry is such a huge deal. Like, so many bad incidents have happened. Everybody that goes to Columbus East knows everybody at Columbus North and vice versa, and everybody's really good friends. But the week of our football game, we're bitter enemies. Like, we won't even talk to them. When we go out to eat, Columbus East and Columbus North have with off-campus lunches. You have to be, if you're a freshman, you have to stay on campus to eat lunch, but if you're a sophomore, junior, or senior, you're allowed to go off campus. And like I said, we're only 3.5 miles apart, so restaurants that we would go to during lunch, they would end up being there as well. Heated arguments would break out, blah, 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 all that stuff. But, there's 7 big incidences that happened that, over the years because of our rivalry. Columbus North High School used to be Columbus High School. There was one high school all the way up until 1972 when East was, opened up. North got too big. So, and that's when the rivalry was born, was in 72. So we're going on, this is the 31st year of the rivalry. But, I'm sorry, 41st year of the rivalry. But anyway, just some of the incidents that have happened over the years. Columbus East, since the beginning, in the front of their school, right next to the main road that runs past it, we had a bush that was in the shape of an E for East. And back in the 70s, some North kids came over and they actually lit that E on fire. And when they put it out, it did some damage to it, and instead of looking like an E, it looked like a C. So forever, that bush that was in the front just looked like a C, and they finally got rid of it a couple years ago. Which it needed to be, because it looked like crap, looking like a C. It tried to look like an E, it just didn't turn out so great. Back when I went to school there was some East kids had went over to the Columbus North High School. Their football practice was going on, and right next to their field, East students had bought a bunch of stuffed bulldog plush toys and actually lit them on fire by their field. There was another incident when I went there where East students had gone over to Columbus North during lunch, and in the student parking lot at North, East students were throwing orange paint all over their cars. Some of these guys got arrested. Just one of the crazy incidents that have happened. Both our high schools have field turf. We got rid of natural grass. We've got field turf. Well, after a big win at North in 2006, we went over there, we won, fans rushed the field, and we spilled orange paint on their field turf, which had to be replaced because it ruined some of their field. So that's another incident. A couple years ago, North students were filling up water guns full of black and blue paint, and they were spraying East fans and East students as they walked by. And fights have broken out at games between students before. There's a lot of police at all these games, but because there's about 5, 6, sometimes 7,000 fans that show up for these games, and we don't have enough, seating for all of it, so people just stand all the way around the field, and it just looks like a huge swarm. And we have to have that many cops there to break up these fights, and there's been more and more over the years, police that is. But student fights have taken place at the games. And then finally, back in 06, my senior year, when we were still 4A, or when we were originally 4A, we were both our sectional championship games were taking place. And in Indiana, for high school football, there's 6 rounds in the tournament, like I said. The first 3 rounds are considered the sectionals. The next round, the 4th round is the regionals. The 5th round is semi-state, that's 1 round, and then the 6th round is the state championship game. But the sectional rounds, each sectional contains 8 teams, and only one of them makes it out as the sectional champion. Well, North was playing in their sectional championship, and they were blowing out their competition. They won, and their game was over real quick. Ours was still going on, and we were losing to East Central High School, which is along the Ohio border. We were losing to them at home. And some of the North students actually came over towards the end of our game when we were losing, started making fun of East. These little kids that were saying North sucks, as these North students came over and walked past our, our bleachers, making fun of us because we were losing the game, saying stuff to little kids and stuff. They walked in front of our student section, and our student section had milk jugs full of rocks. And these North students started making fun. Well, East students actually threw these milk jugs at these North kids' faces. There were girls that got hit too. But we ended up coming back and winning that game. I think both of our schools went to the Final Four that year in 4A and in 5A. But those are just some of the crazy incidents that happen at the East and North football games, how big this rivalry is. And like I said, just for 1 week of the year we hate each other, and then the rest of the time, we're all friends, we hang out, all that stuff. But it just kind of goes to show how crazy this rivalry gets in this town. And it's definitely one of the top rivalries in the state of Indiana as far as high school football is concerned. The rivalry extends to all the other sports, and it's pretty big in basketball and all those others too, soccer, baseball, but football is definitely the biggest sport as far as the rivalry is concerned. So yeah, I'm going to go to the game tonight. It's at Columbus North. Both teams have been rebuilding since last year. We both got brand new quarterbacks, and I'm looking forward to going to the game and hopefully watching my Columbus East Olympians win the game. So everybody, you guys have a great day, and I will see you next time.